So my experience in terms of where I've got to in my life, in my career, I can't run away from it or shy away from it. It was a rags to, I wish I could say I was rich, but it was a rags to, still raggy, but hopefully rich. Yeah, still there. But also obviously my success within my career as well, it came from struggle. Like I failed school. I didn't leave with GCSEs. I was excluded, blah, 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 blah. And the reason why I don't love that story so much is because I know very well that is not an isolated story. If anything, that's a very common story, like especially with people that I went to school with, that I grew up with. There's success at the end of mine, but I don't love that story because I'm at a point where I don't want that to be the same story I'm hearing another black kid say in 10, 15 years' time. In my head, that's the end goal. So I use it to inspire my colleagues and maybe some young people now. But the message is beyond the rags to riches story. It's no matter where you've come from, keep pushing, keep grinding, and here's some tools to help you get there. That for me is what is more important. But someone made a very good comment the other day, another black educator, and he said, we never hear the stories of just a young black boy that did very well in school, worked hard, patterned himself, and was successful. From early, and got there. And that's what I was saying. I think sometimes we glamorize or we love the rags to riches story. We love the struggle story. But actually, we don't always talk about or celebrate enough the average Joe that just did really, really well, exceeded expectations, didn't get kicked out of school, had a kind of humble beginning, but wasn't necessarily, sharing food with his cat or dog, like in the living room, whatever rappers say in their lines all the time. It was just kind of like they worked hard, they got to where they needed to get to. So that was just saying that's the flip side of that sometimes we need to hear more of those success stories.
The thing is, like you said, it's a common experience. People going to school, getting kicked out and stuff like that. And the reason why we love the rags to riches story is because it's relatable. It's if somebody came from, poverty and they made it, then, that means I can do it. If I'm poor and there's a guy who's middle class and grown up in life's easier for him, then I'm not going to relate to his story. I don't want to hear your story because I can't relate to it. Similar to when you're talking about how people get handouts or help from their parents to get properties, right? If you now tell me your dad gave you money or your mum gave you money, I'm not going to care for it. Whereas if somebody was to do it by themselves, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm more attracted to that story because that's that's the predicament that I find myself in. And I don't think it's something that's unique to the black experience. I think it's unique to a poor experience. I think if in poorer communities, whether you're black, whether you're Asian, whatever you are, white even, you're still going to find that they have that same mentality. I think, unfortunately, a lot more black people find themselves in these positions, right? So for us, it feels like it's just a black experience, but I think it's not something that's unique to race. I think it's to do with just your financial situation. And then I think you get to a point where somebody who did make it through becomes a gatekeeper